بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. So last time we had started talking about a number of hadith where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the first series in which he started, he says al-iman ha-huna, right? He said al-iman ha-huna. It's working? Okay, good. So here, and then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he goes on to mention a number of different characteristics, and he goes on to mention a number of different places. So from them, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam said al-hikmah yamaniya, right? Fiqh fil yaman. He said al-iman fil yaman. Then he said that the حيث يطلع قرن الشيطان من ربيع ومضر. Then he pointed to different places. Then he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned different hadith about those individuals who raise camels, and then those individuals that raise sheep. Why did Imam Muslim put all these hadith together? So when we talked about Imam Muslim, we said that one of the unique things that he did that other muhaddithin didn't do with their books was what? What is unique about Imam Muslim Sahih? We've gone through what? Okay, good, right? So he'll bring parallel chains. That's something that's very important. And what is one of the reasons that he brings those parallel chains? Right, to reinforce certain concepts, to reinforce certain hadith. طيب. What else does he do? He does something that something that we call hadith clusters. What are those? Right, so he'll put a number of hadith that share a similar theme under the same category, because Imam Muslim did something else that was different than other muhaddithin, which was what? He doesn't have chapters. There are no chapters in his book. The way he organizes his book is through kutub, right? So right now we're in Kitab al-Iman, and what he's done is he has Kitab al-Iman, and what does he do? He just brings all of the hadith that are related to Iman, but you'll find in Kitab al-Iman that he actually clusters a hadith together. So if there are hadith with a related theme, he will mention all of those. He starts with this one, right? So he started with the hadith al-Iman ha-huna, and then he starts talking about Rabi', he talks about Mudar, he talks about people who raise camels, he talks about people who raise sheep, he talks about the mashriq and like how the fitna will come from there. What is the relationship between all of these things? And what is Imam Muslim trying to tell us? And he talks about Yemen also, right? So he said that fitna will come from the mashriq, from Rabi' al-Mudar, and he says that hikmah will be in Yemen. And he talks about Ahl al-Wabr, he talks about the people who are nomadic and live in tents. What is he telling us here? And what does this have to do with Iman? Yes? You're actually making a very good point. But تفضل. We'll get back to that. I'm sorry? Signs of the Day of Judgment? Not yet. Not yet. Because over here, Imam al-Khattabi, he actually mentions very specifically that the Prophet ﷺ, he said this, وَأَرَادَ مِنْ فِي أَهْدِي. He actually meant like this was during his time. Because Rabi' and Mudar were then. And we had talked about this previously, that from Rabi' and Mudar, who very famously came from them. And the people followed him. Musaylimah, right? Musaylimah al-Kadhab. What is so we talk about, go ahead. You're going to say something, Miguel? Repeat the question. Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ talked about different tribes. He talked about different places. He talked about different occupations. What do these have to do with Iman? Because the Prophet ﷺ is the one who's mentioning these things. Sahurullah. He's mentioning different tribes. He talks about Rabi' and Mudar. He talks about Ahl Yemen. He talks about Mashriq. He talks about Min Qibl Yemen. He talks about people who deal with camels, and people who deal with horses, and people who deal with sheep. Okay. So loving tribalism, and how that will give more importance than actually the truth, even sometimes. Mashi, that's definitely one theme. But what else? What else are you guys seeing here? Like there's something that, subhanAllah, I was actually thinking about it, and it came to me. The effect of where you are and your profession and who you're with on what? On your iman. And I was like, what do all these hadith have to do with each other? And it's actually really interesting on how Imam Muslim gathers these hadith, and even how he sallallahu alaihi wasallam presents this concept of iman. And it should be very telling for us, because according to this, if we take this understanding, how does it help me dictate my life? Yes. Okay. This has to do with Imam Muslim himself, but I'm talking about me as a Muslim, as an individual. Me understanding that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is talking about different places, he's talking about different people, he's talking about different occupations. Yes. Tolerance, okay, that's part of it. Because this is going to go back to the idea that Uthman actually had touched on, which I think is a secondary discussion I want to have about the nature of Islam and how it's cosmopolitan. Tfadl, Miguel. Being aware of your surroundings. In what way? Ahsant. I have to be aware of the people around me. I have to be aware of the place. And not just that, I have to be aware of what also? The nature of the work that I do. Just because were there Muslims that were there people who had become Muslim from Rabi and Mudar? Yes, right. So here it's not every single person. Are there individuals who raise camels and horses and were not from the people who were arrogant? Yes, absolutely. Are there people from Yemen who were not guided? Yes, absolutely. Here, he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's talking about the majority, right? The majority of cases and how we as individuals, it's very important for us to be aware of these things. I have to be aware of the people around me. I have to be aware of the job that I take, and I have to be aware of the place that I am. So when I make decisions, when I make life decisions, what are the most important things I need to see? All of my discussions, all of my decisions need to be based on imaniyat. Like, if I move to this place, how will it what? Affect my iman. If I'm around these people, how will it affect my iman? If I take this job, how will it affect my iman? And here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam is just giving us examples, right? He's just giving us examples. Meaning, is all of disbelief like in Rabi and Mudar? No. Is all of wisdom in Yemen? No, right? This is not, it's not meant to be limited. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam would do this very often, right? He would share things as examples so that we could learn from those examples, so that we can better ourselves, and so that we can make smarter decisions when we live, when we travel, when we interact with others. The secondary point that Uthman had touched on that is very important is, okay, if these three things exist, if I understand that people and places and jobs affect me, that means that what? I have to be in a place that has what? People, places, and jobs. Does Islam encourage a Bedouin lifestyle? Or here, let me put it another way. A secluded lifestyle? No, not at all. Right? Islam is not a isolationist religion. It's not a seclusive religion. It's not meant for us to pull ourselves into isolation and not interact with people, not deal with people. And what are some of the reasons for that? Why is it important that I deal with people? Yes. Huh. Why? I get confused. I don't know. I kind of think about it. I'm like, I'm just gonna get a piece of land, and just like have my chickens, and I'll have my Jersey cow. Yes. Okay. hmm Okay. So he says, why is that important though? Why is it important that I know people? Yes, there's a spiritual aspect to it, and we have a command for it. Tfaddal. Oh, I'm sorry. Have I dealt with Bedouins? Yes, I have actually. I live with them for like 10 years. I mean, some of them, mashallah, some of them are actually. Oh, dang, bro. Oh, easy. This is yo, you took it personal, man. So this is why we deal with. No, I'm saying. No, I'm saying this is why we deal with people. Why? Ahsant. So that we learn to be softer, right? Because if I just pull myself away from others, and if I'm only dealing with myself, then I'll never learn how to what? How to talk to people. I won't know how to address people. I won't know how to respond when somebody makes me angry. Huh? Right? So all of these things are very important. Actually, like if a person deals with me in a poor way, oh, so can we close that door? I'm sorry. So if we deal with people in a bad way, or somebody deals with me in a bad way, my Islam should tell me how to what? How to respond, right? And how to interact. This is something that's really important, and not just that. This idea of interaction, and I know I've touched on this, and I've pushed I push this concept time and again. This idea of how I interact with people is reflective of what? Huh? Taqwa. Ahsantum. This idea of how I deal with others and how I interact with others is very reflective of my personal taqwa. Because if I can't be good with others, then how is it possible that I'm being good with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? And the nature of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very different. Right? It's very different than it is with people. If we like there are people who curse Allah. Does it make a difference to Allah? No. There are people that worship him. It doesn't make it, these things don't make a difference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the way that we deal with each other and the way that we interact with each other, this should be very reflective of who we are. And if I'm praying properly, then I should be kind. If I'm fasting, it should show and it should reflect in my khuluq. Right? If I'm giving my zakat, what is zakat supposed to teach me? It purifies what though? Purifies my wallet or no? No. uh Right. It's supposed to purify my nafs. It's supposed to teach me like, okay, hey, listen, this person, I'm giving money to someone who is in need. Right. It's kind of unfortunate that we kind of live in an era now and in a time now. How many of you actually give your zakat directly? How many of you like actually give zakat? No, I'm just kidding. Like, no. So I'm saying like we live in an era now. Like, how do most of us give zakat? It's just a matter of pressing some buttons, right? Or sending a message. But if you go to most Eastern countries, how is zakat distributed? It's usually through people you know, right? Like, and not just that, you know the struggles that those people are going through. It's a very different paradigm when you're actually going and interacting with people and giving that money. And the Hajj, right? Someone might be like, okay, well, what about Hajj? What about Hajj? How many of you have had the opportunity to make Hajj? No? Yeah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open the doors for you. I mean, you guys should have took advantage before the Saudis take over, but anyway. But, so, huh? Oh, man, last year, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. No, last year was bad. Yeah, last year was bad. Like a lot of people, like people's flights, so their rooms, everything was reserved, and their flights were canceled. Like it was, it was, it was terrible. It was really bad. So they decided to double down and do it again this year. May Allah bless them. So, so this Hajj, what happens in Hajj? How many people go for Hajj? Like 1 million plus. How many people do you have to interact with? Like 1 million people. Like, so when you go make Hajj, and you guys, I'm sure all of you have seen the videos of Hajj, like and just the tawaf, right? Forget all the other parts of it. How many people are in the tawaf? It's like too many. There's too many people. So imagine yourself standing in that space, and you're just surrounded by people, and it's tight, and I can't move faster than anyone else. Why? Because there's people, there's no space. There's people all around me. I am forced to move at the speed of the crowd. And if I'm short, I don't even know where I'm going, right? I can't even see. Like subhanallah, I remember thinking about this one time. I was making tawaf, and it was packed. It was like packed. It was like Hajj season. And I'm just like, I was like starting to get frustrated. I'm like, oh my God. And like, like you have people elbowing you, and it's like, it's just not a comfortable thing. And then some people, they don't really, like, personal hygiene's not a big thing. So, like there's like all kinds of aromas in the air. And you're just like, I was like, oh my God, what if Allah had made me short? Like this is like the thought that had come to my mind. I would feel like I would just feel enclosed and encased, because it's just a wall of human beings like all around me. And for me, I'm like a head above everyone, so I can kind of see what's going on. I can see the direction, I can see the crowd and things like that. But I was like, subhanallah, and it's amazing how you look at all of these pillars, and they just teach you how to deal with people. Right? It's like they're just huge lessons on how we should interact and how we should deal with others. Even if we look at prayer, the congregational prayer, like, what is the biggest complaint that we get? Oh, this person was taking too much room. I like, especially from like the sister side, right? So like, oh, they don't make their rows straight. They don't do this. For men, it happens. It happens. It's a little bit to a lesser degree, but even with them, it happens when it comes to reserving space, right? Like sometimes there are fights over reserved space. Like, I'm praying here, or this is my spot, or this is where I'm supposed to be. You have issues where people will immediately judge somebody else's prayer, right? And they'll start putting down somebody else's prayer. And it's like, okay, bro, like I was here to pray. Like, what were you doing? You know, you're just sitting like watching me the whole time. And the thing is, again, think about that. Like, it's a way, it's forcing us into proximity. Because even during prayer, like it's not, you know, for some people, COVID was like a blessing. You know, it's like they got, you know what I mean? It's like a comfort salah. You got like you got your 6 feet. You know what I mean? Like even the brothers who try to touch feet, like they're standing super extra wide, but they still can't make it. It's a and it's like, but for the rest of the year or the rest of the season, it's like being close to someone. You know, being and not just being close to someone, being close to who? Like a complete stranger. Right, like you don't even know who this person is, and subhanallah, we've become conditioned to a point now. Walillah alhamd, I think this is something like, you know, we really should be proud of as an ummah. We don't care who we're standing next to. Right? It's not in you know, when we talk about like Muslim unity and things like that, I think these are some of the things that we overlook. That when I come to a masjid and pray, you know, I don't look for the sign and be like, yo, is this the Paki masjid or like the Arab masjid, right? This is not, it's not even an issue, to the point now where some of us, we won't even care. Like we'll walk in and like, what, even if it's Sunni or Shia, like if we want to pray, it's like, no, I'm just going to go here to pray anyway. Like this is the extent of the type of unity that we have. And again, it's something that we should be proud of. Like even during Ramadan, do you care who you like? Al-Hijrah, like we have like 1,000 people in here, like literally, like I have like 1,000 people. This entire space is full of people. That space is full. Like you can't go anywhere except there's people sitting somewhere. People don't ask who they're sitting next to. They just sit down. The food comes out. Everybody eats. And I have yet to go anywhere in the Muslim world, and alhamdulillah, I've been able to travel a lot, where that's not the case. Like you're not, they're gonna be like, no, you're a foreigner, you're not allowed to eat with us. Everybody will invite, and everybody will want you to sit at their table, and everybody will want you to get involved. And even zakat, like we don't say, oh, we don't take zakat from Egyptians, or we don't take zakat from, so no, yeah, wherever the zakat is coming from, we take it and we distribute. Tfaddal ya akhi. Yes. Yeah. hmm so I mean, there like salam. There's like there are a lot of peaceful elements to it, but ultimately Islam is about submission, right? We submit to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We submit to His rules. We submit to the regulations that we've been given, so that we can bring the societal dynamic. And what was the last one? Like even fasting. Fasting might be like, okay, well, what about the fasting itself? I'm hungry. I'm thirsty. Right? You know, for those that are married, like they're sexually deprived. These are all frustrating, right? They're all very frustrating things. But it is in that frustrated space that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling me that you have to go interact and deal with people. And why? Because when those frustrations are removed, I should be what? I should even be better, right? I should be better. I should be a stronger person. It's like, man, if I can navigate in this tight space, then it should be so much easier for me to navigate when those things are gone. So if I lack kindness and I lack the ability to be soft with others, I'm not patient with others, then I really need to look at my ibadat, right? I really need to go back and I need to examine my worship, because my khuluq should be reflective of those things. And even if we look at the Quran, the vast majority of the Quran, it's not about rulings. Like, okay, you need to do this, then you need to pray like that, and you need to stand like this. Like it's like small. It's like less than 10% of the Quran is like has to do with rulings. A lot of it is instilling these values, being truthful, kind, honest, upright. Why? Because we have to interact with one another. Like, can I be kind on a mountain by myself? Like, who's there? No, I'm saying, who's there to be kind to? The rocks? You know, like the animal, like, or being truthful, or being brave. Like, these characteristics don't come out unless when? Unless I interact with others. Even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said to the Bedouins, he said, "La tubadu ba'da ma tuhadiru." Like, you know, don't go back to a Bedouin lifestyle after coming to Medina. And there's a number of aspects to it. One of those aspects was that being with the Muslim community, right? That's really important, because even if we look at us as like a communal obligation, some people might ask, like, okay, well, what is the minimum threshold of knowledge? The minimum threshold of knowledge, it's tough, right? It's tough to actually define what that is and what that means. But there are two things that every single one of us can do. We can be part of a community, so that if I do have problems or issues, I have people who I can turn to, I can interact with. And I need to connect myself with somebody who has knowledge. Because if I connect myself with someone who has knowledge, if I do have questions, what can I do? I can get them answered. And if we look at the companions, how many of the companions were hufad, like who had memorized the entirety of the Quran? Like it's a minority. It wasn't a lot of them. But you know the one thing that they all did do? They made sure that they were part of that companion community, and they made sure that they would ask the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or one of the knowledgeable companions, and like they would have a relationship with them. And this is something that we can, I think, every single person can do this, right? There isn't someone who, no one can be excused from these two things. I don't think anyone can be excused from these two things. And someone like, well, what about someone on the, being stranded is an exceptional case. Like, being in a crash landing is an exceptional case. But in general, people who live their lives, we can all be part of community, and we can connect ourselves with someone of knowledge. And this is something that's really important. I'm not saying like, the greatest scholar on earth. No, but someone who knows more than me. Right? Because that person who knows more than me, one of two things can happen. Either he can give me the answer, or he'll what? Right? Or he'll point me to someone who will get me that answer. طيب وين وصلنا؟ قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى: وحدثنا يحيى بن أيوب وقتيبة بن الحجر عن إسماعيل بن جعفر قال ابن أيوب قال حدثنا إسماعيل قال أخبرني علاء عن أبيه عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: الإيمان يمان والكفر قبل المشرق والسكينة في أهل الغنم والفخر والرياء في الفدادين أهل الخيل والوبر. So over here, he sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says that Iman is where? In Yemen, right? He says the Iman is in Yemen. He says وَالْكُفْرُ قِبْلِ الْمَشْرِقِ, but disbelief is where? In the east. وَالسَّكِينَةُ فِي أَهْلِ الْغَنَمِ, and tranquility is with the shepherds of sheep. وَالْفَخْرُ وَالرِّيَاءُ فِي الْفَدَّادِينَ أَهْلُ الْخَيْلِ وَالْوَبَرِ. He says, and those who are proud and those who show off, you'll find this characteristic with the faddadin. Faddadin, these individuals were the ones like who are loud with their animals, the ones that call on their animals. So these are basically the large show animals. Does that make sense? Right. So the large show animals, the ones who watched over them, they were known as faddadin. Right. These individuals were the ones who because they'd be the ones that yell out. And why would they yell out? Number one, like to control the animals. But what is another reason that they would yell out? To bring attention to what? To their animals, right? To bring attention to their animals. If I have a prize camel, would I hide it? No, right? The idea isn't to hide that prize camel. The idea is to what? To show it off, so that either I can get good money for it, or I can build status because that I have it. And we said that in general, these two large animals people take a lot of pride in, right? So you have a few show animals that even during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would be recognized. Those are camels and horses. Ahsant. And not just that, with camels and horses, there are other things that people take pride in them too, which is what? Not just show, but also races. Right? When was the last time you guys heard of a sheep race? or a goat race? How come you can't race sheep or goat? They can't. Yeah, they don't have the attention span. Like they don't have the mental capacity to even herd. It's very difficult when it comes to sheep and goat. But horses and camels are actually very intelligent animals. They're very intelligent animals. They'll herd. They'll follow line. They'll perform for you. But you can never get that from a goat or a sheep. Like they won't perform for you. So in these, when to have an animal that's a show animal and that has to be trained. If I'm training an animal, what happens? I'm spending time with the animal. I'm not spending time with who? With people. Ahsant. It's clear. So does this only apply to, what are some jobs that you guys can think of today that this might apply? Okay, dog trainers. Ahsant. Good. Animal doctors. Yeah. No. Veterinarians. Maybe, for sure. Like, so you have all types of animal groups. What do you got? What do you? Maybe possibly farmers, depending on what they're farming. What do you guys say? What about mechanics? Yeah. Do you think mechanics are good with people? No. It's just a question. Why? No, I mean, إلا من رحم الله. No. But my question is, okay, why is that? Huh? Because they work with cars. They don't work with people. And there are certain people who do work with people, but the problem is they don't treat them like people. They treat them, right? So Related to cars, salesmen. Do we trust salesmen? Why? Because they look at the customer as what? Like a dollar sign. No, no. I'm saying so. The problem is like, okay, yeah, they have a lot of interactions with people. They have a lot of interactions with people, but the problem is that that interaction, is it organic? No, right? It's a forced interaction that's happened, and like it's a very selfish one, right? It's a very selfish interaction that have another group of people that deal with people but aren't considered good with people. Lawyers, yes, huh? Policemen, yes, yeah, no, no. I mean, and you'll find doctors, right? Medical doctors, soldiers, yeah, also soldiers, right? You all of these different groups of people, like they deal with people, but they deal with them in a very what? Very specific capacity. Do you find the same thing with people like counselors or therapists? You generally not. Why? Right, because that part of their job is actually sitting down and listening. It's more listening to people than it is what? Talking to them. Who else is good with people? Teachers. Why? Same thing, right? Huh? Coaches, huh? Coaches. No, you think if you think about these people, like even in our own past, we'll have a good relationship with such people. Why? Because the nature of that relationship is very different, right? That teacher student relationship, or the mutually beneficial relationship. But if the benefit is mostly one way, usually that the person who's there or on the receiving end of it is not. He doesn't have. They're not unable to develop those skill sets. And here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like I said, there is, even though he doesn't directly saying it, just giving us these examples gives us an idea of what type of jobs that we should be aware of. Meaning that, is he saying don't get those jobs? No, but what is he telling us? Is it important to be mindful that if I take that position, that I have to make extra effort to what? Hmm. To be aware, right? To have that awareness. I have to be very mindful. I have to have that awareness. Like I have to be extra kind. I have to make extra efforts in order to be a better person. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. Yes. Mm-hmm. Intelligent people? What about us? Alhamdulillah. May Allah increase their brain. uh, وقال حدثني حرملة ابن يحيى قال أنبأنا ابن وهب قال أخبرني يونس ابن شهاب. So over here I just want to take, this is a isnadi note. He starts with حدثني, then he goes to أنبأنا, then he goes to أخبرني. And the only reason I'm pointing this out is to show that Imam Muslim, he paid attention to what? To al-fadh, on how a hadith was narrated. So he took great importance and great care in making note of these things and how the hadith was actually narrated. قال أخبرني أبو سلمة ابن عبد الرحمن أن أبو هريرة قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول الفخر والخيلاء في الفدادين أهل الوبر. So over here he says that pride in showing off is in who? In faddadin. Yani these ones who yell with these animals, who deals with these animals. Ahl wabr, the people of the tents. We'll talk about that. Was-sakina fi ahl ghanam. And he said that tranquility is with the herders of sheep. Type tents. What do tents have to do with this? Right, so people who live in tents, their houses are not what? They're not fixed. Because if they're fixed, they wouldn't be what? They wouldn't be tents. And the idea behind a tent is that you can what? You can just pick it up and move. So what is the problem with somebody who moves a lot? Right? You can't, it's very difficult to build relationships when you're constantly moving. Right, so if you're constantly shifting, you're constantly moving around, it's very difficult to build relationships. And so what group of people, I would say in modern day, because we don't really have Bedouins, right? So but what group of people in modern day have this issue? Hobos have bigger issues, yeah. Consultants usually live somewhere, they just travel a lot, right? But I'm sorry? Business people, they can. I'm sorry? Military, ahsant. Right? So military is a good example of that. That's the one that actually came to mind for me because they actually cannot. They don't actually live anywhere. Right? They move from what? From base to base to base. And the problem with people who move a lot is like, yes, you're right. You can't build relationships, but there's another characteristic that I was thinking of that is very difficult to develop when you're in that position as well. I'm sorry? There's another word, but you're very close. I do agree with you. Like attachment, commitment. Huh? You guys are around it. Huh? Wafa, loyalty. Right? It's very difficult to develop loyalty because I don't have the attachment. Right? Like all the terms you guys use are 100% right. Right? But if I don't have that sense of attachment or commitment, it's very difficult for me to develop a sense of loyalty. And the thing with the people in the military, eventually, where does their loyalty lie? Huh? Not necessarily themselves, but it'll be just to the battalion, right? Or it'll just be to whatever the regiment that they're in, because these are the only people that have been consistent with them. But developing relationships outside of that becomes very difficult. It becomes very challenging, and this is why it's important. Like, how can tribalism persist? Well, this is one of the ways that it persisted. Why? Because you're always with your tribe, right? You're always with your tribe. So your tribe is here. What do you do? You're there, and your tribe moves here. What do you do? You move with them. Your tribe moves here. You move with them. But you're never what? You're not experiencing other people. And what is the problem with dealing with just one tribe? Someone might be like, okay, well, what if you have a big tribe? Yes. Uh, no what? Yeah. Mm, you can bring it to me tomorrow, inshallah. All right. So my question again is here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, I'm sorry. We were talking about this idea of movement. What if I'm interacting with other people in the tribe? Like, can't that be a good substitute? Right. So you have this group think. What is the problem with? I'm sorry. You're gonna have major blind spots. Why? Because everybody thinks the same way. Right. And they're used to the same way, and not just that. When you have a culture, and if I'm in a family, what do I do with that culture? Right? I just reinforce it. I just perpetuate it, and this is what we'll find. Like, so sometimes, in some cultures, it's really important. They say, okay, well, no, we want to marry from the same tribe because we what? Because not just preserve, but because we share the same culture, and it'll be easier for you to get along. It'll be easier for you to deal with each other because you share the same culture. But they bringing somebody new in, what happens? Right? There's a disruption that happens there. And why is this looked at so negatively? Right? People are afraid of change. Right? It all boils down to status quo. We want to do things that we are what? We're comfortable in. Like, if I'm comfortable with something, I want to keep doing that because change is what? It's hard, right? It requires like a little bit of effort. If I'm just doing things the way that I've always done, then what happens? It's easy, right? It's something I'm familiar with, like I understand it. So anytime somebody brings any type of change, it's like I have to adjust. And nobody likes doing that. Like, nobody likes change. Here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's implicitly implying for us that you have to accept what? You have to accept change. You have to. Like, part of iman is accepting and understanding and learning how to deal with change and these different forces that you will face in your life. Sometimes you might have to move. Sometimes you're going to have to deal with different types of people. Sometimes you have to change your job. And changing jobs for many is very difficult, right? It's very challenging. But just because those changes are there, it doesn't necessarily make it a bad thing. It doesn't necessarily make it negative. قال وحدثنا عبد الله بن عبد الرحمن الدارمي قال أنبأنا أبو اليمان قال أنبأنا شعيب عن الزهري بهذا الإسناد مثله. So he brings a similar narration to the hadith that preceded, which is the one that we just had read. But he adds to this. He says, Al-Iman Yaman wal-Hikmah Yamaniya. So over here he says that Iman and belief is in Yemen and wisdom is from Yemen. How many companions moved to Yemen? Huh? It was just Mu'adh. He didn't even settle there. He just went on like it was just a missionary. He just went to call the people to Islam. So the question then comes here. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He's praising the people of Yemen, and he's saying that Iman is there and Hikmah is there and all of these things are there, but the companions, they still stayed. Where? They still stayed in Medina, and not just that. From the major time. Oh, man, I was looking at this clock like 7 o'clock. Oh my God. SubhanAllah. But they want to call it then? Okay. تفضل يا أستاذ محمد. أذن.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
No, we're gonna stop, inshallah. Like, I was fasting. I want to eat too. So let me. I think inshallah. I do not. There's only a few hadith left. So so here he sallallahu alaihi wasallam, just because he's praising a group of people, it doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't become an obligation to leave and to go live with them. Is just an understanding of who they are, so that when you have to deal with them, to deal with them well. Even Umar radiallahu an, he every time a Yemeni delegation would come, what would he do? He would specifically go to greet them. Why? Because he was looking for Uwais al-Qarni. قال وحدثنا عبد الله بن عبد الرحمن قال أنبأنا أبو اليمان عن شعيب أن زهري قال حدثني سعيد بن المسيب أن أبو هريرة قال سمعت الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول جاء أهل اليمن. So he said a group of people came from Yemen. هم أرق أفئدة وأضعف قلوبا. He said that these are the people with the softest and the like I don't want to say weakest, but it's an expression of softness, right? The people with the softest hearts. And he said, Al-Iman Yaman wal-Hikmah Yamaniya. He said that belief is in Yemen, or Iman is in Yemen, wa Hikmah Yamaniya, and wisdom is from Yemen. Was-Sakina fi Ahl al-Ghanab, and tranquility is with the people who look over the sheep. Wal-Fakhr wal-Khuyala, and pride and showing off. Fil Faddadin are these the ones who look over the big animals or watch over these larger animals. Ahl al-Wabr, the people of the tents. Qibl al-Matli al-Shams. He says from the place in which the sun rises. قال حدثنا أبو بكر بن أبي شيبة وأبو كريب قال حدثنا أبو معاوية عن الأعمش عن أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أتاكم أهل اليمن هم ألين قلوبا وأرق أفئدة. He said that the people of Yemen have come to you. These are the individuals with the softest and the most like laying hearts. Al-Iman Yaman wal-Hikmah Yamaniya. He says that Iman is from Yemen and the wisdom is from Yemen. رأس كفر قبل المشرق. He says, and the head of disbelief will come from the east. قال وحدثنا قتيبة بن سعيد وزهير بن حرب قال حدثنا جرير عن عامش بهذا الإسناد نحوه. So he brings a similar chain for the previous hadith. ولم يذكر رأس كفر قبل المشرق. He says except that this part that disbelief will rise from the east is not mentioned there. قال حدثنا محمد المثنى قال حدثنا ابن أبي عدي حاء وتحويل الإسناد وحدثني بشر بن خالد قال حدثنا محمد يعني ابن جعفر قال. So over here he actually explains who one of the narrators is to help identify who that narrator is so that he doesn't get confused with other Muhammads. قال حدثنا شعبة عن الأعمش بهذا الإسناد. So he brings another isnad with a similar wording again to fortify the meaning and to fortify the chain and the text. مثل حديث جرير وزاد والفخر والخيلاء في أصحاب الإبل. He says that showing off in pride is with the herders of camels والسكينة والوقارة. He says, and peace and tranquility في أصحاب الشاء are those individuals who look over sheep. قال حدثنا إسحاق بن إبراهيم قال أخبرنا عبد الله بن الحارث المخزومي عن ابن جريج قال أخبرني أبو الزبير أنه سمع جابر بن عبد الله يقول. So over here he heard Abu Zubair heard Jabir ibn Abdullah radiallahu anhu say قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, the messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, غلظ القلوب والجفاء في المشرق. He says that the hardness of the hearts and the dryness of the hearts في المشرق is in the east. والإيمان في أهل الحجاز. He says, and that belief is from the people of Hijaz. Hijaz is where? Like Makkah, Medina, right? Makkah, Medina, Taif. This area was known as Hijaz. What do you guys think about this hadith? Sahih? So Imam Muslim just brought a dozen hadith that said it was Yemen. كأنه أراد التفرد. So over here he's showing that he's probably showing that there's a mistake here. I'm going to go look at the chain later inshallah, but I believe that's what Imam Muslim intended here. But we'll stop here بإذن الله تعالى. والله أعلم وصلى الله على خير خلق نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. جزاكم الله خير.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
اعتدل وتراص يرحمكم الله. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إن يوم الفصل ميقاتهم أجمعين يوم لا يغني مولى عن مولى شيئا ولا هم ينصرون إلا من رحم الله إنه هو العزيز الرحيم. إن شجرة الزقوم طعام الأثيم كالمهل تغلي في البطون كغلي الحميم خذوه فاعتلوه إلى سواء الجحيم ثم صبوا فوق رأسه من عذاب الحميم ذوق إنك أنت العزيز الكريم. إن هذا ما كنتم به تمترون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. إن المتقين في مقام أمين في جنات وعيون يلبسون من سندس وإستبرق متقابلين كذلك وزوجناهم بحور عين يدعون فيها بكل فاكهة آمنين لا يذوقون الموت إلا الموتة الأولى ووقاهم ربهم عذاب الجحيم فضلا من ربك ذلك هو الفوز العظيم فإنما يسرناه بلسانك لعلهم يتذكرون فارتقب إنهم مرتقبون. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.